Thank you so much. I got the title only yesterday, so I am looking around who's the Chief Product Officer. So this is going to be an interesting panel because from what I gather from the first session is this is a hardcore engineering audience, and we have to talk about user experience. So when we did our rounds of preparation, I believe in homework. It may not reflect in my grades, but I always have done my homework. So when I talked to my panelists, we were kind of pushing each other in terms of how deep we want to go, how controversial we want to be, etc. Because it's a very passionate topic. The user experience is at the center of everything what Pari talked about, everything what all the keynotes talked about this morning, right, or this afternoon. The thing as part of my research, don't be misled by my title. I am new to design thinking or user experience thinking as well. But what I heard was there were a lot of buzzwords, right? Empathy-based learning, rapid prototyping, correcting errors sooner, and inside-out strategy versus outside-in strategy, right? So what I thought was we have a fantastic panel here, right? I'm just going to do the job of moderating, and consistent to the user experience design panel, I'm going to take a lot of questions from you, because at the end of the day, this panel has to work for you, for this panel to be effective as per the guidelines of user experience design, right? So let me give you a brief overview of who we have in this panel. We have Anne from Dassault Systems. She is Vice President of Design Innovation. Could you please take the chair? We have Olivier from Liquide. He is VP of Digital Transformation. You don't mind sitting next to me?
Try to.
All right. We have Vincent, General Manager from GE Digital. Last but not least, he just looks like a designer, Christophe Temple, Experienced Design Director from Altran. I think before I tap into the wisdom of this eminent panel, for me, this panel is all about learning this key skill of creative expression, right? Because creative expression has become such, it used to be just reserved to few artists and designers, but it not so familiar with all the business professionals. But I think that era is changing. If you listen to the keynotes, all of us need to have some sort of creative expression to diagnose our client needs, to understand our user pain points, to talk through, understand the anxieties of our customers, so that we can put out better products, services that would work across markets, it has to work across demographics, and it has to work across multiple user ethnicities as well. So with that introduction, I really want to level set, first of all, what user experience is all about. So I'm going to go 2 minutes to each one of the eminent panelists and let them explain what user experience is all about from their perspective, because we have a very, very diverse perspective, and I had a hard time keeping the panel together in preparation, right? So we're going to go in order, but believe me, we are going to get into some very interesting questions. Let me start with Anne. What is user experience to you, and why do you think we should learn about that?
Did you realize that on my title I got design experience?
Yeah.
Okay, so the answer is on my title.
All right. All right.
I'm a designer. What it means? We talked a lot about design, but a lot of perception. Design is a meta-meaning. What it means is it means a lot of things. It means what we do. It's a noun. It's also an adjective when it comes to France. So nobody knows really what is design. But when it comes to design, it's basically taking an experience, a living experience, and transfer this experience to a more desirable one. That's really the role of design. So it has been instrumentalized over the years for business and industrial purpose. through the style, through the seduction, through everything that help people to adopt. And mostly it's at the heart of adoption of a technology, or adoption or a change, or adoption of something that is at the first sight unknown, uncomfortable. So what is really, for me, user experience is when design engage its own approach of transforming living experiences that we do in everyday lives into more desirable, sensible, and sustainable ones. So durability is not really the term I will use. I prefer sustainable and sensible and desirable, because really what it is at the heart of our lives. Second, I will use only the term experience, because user experience is when it comes to the world of digital and when it comes to the world of software. Because in the world of software, users means I'm using a particular technology or a particular software, so I'm a user. But we are all users. I prefer to replace the term users by human, because ultimately, what every company does, wherever they are, industrial or digital, they are not just delivering technology or doing technology or delivering product or services or experiences even. They are actually acting for the goods, for the humanity. Okay, so design works with a human-centered approach, and this is why design, the last few years, has been recognized as at the center of driving a good user experience. Because you can do a user experience without design. It does happen very often, and we discuss about that. And most engineers say, why I need designers to do a good user experience? Actually, even to do just a user experience. It's because they don't understand that is this particular approach, that is a human-centered approach of design, that actually help to set the framework, the process, the collaboration, the co-intelligence that will be driving a good user experience. Without to say, this is a type of approach Apple used, R&B, and there are many, many other native digital companies that have it at the heart of their value proposition, a design thinking. I'm not talking about the method. I'm talking about the démarche, the approach of design in the way you think and experience. And I stop there because I'm sure they are.
Let me ask you, Olivier, what is your perspective of user experience? Specifically, if you look at systems that are being designed now, almost all companies, especially native companies, are trying to become software companies, right? What is your perspective on that? And is that the right approach?
Okay, so I'm Olivier from Liquide. About your questions about the software company, I will let my friend Vincent address it. In a nutshell, Liquide, it's a young startup, born in 1902 in a garage, not so far from here. And now we are a 20 billion company. And let's say our business is small molecules that are, in a nutshell, essential for life, for matter and energy. That being said, a lot of engineers.
Sorry to interrupt, but it's a very big surprise for me when I learned about your iLab initiative, right? Why is Liquide doing this type of thing?
I will come to that in a second. But the main, before I go there, the main, let's say, challenge we have in such a company is that it's a very engineer-driven company, a very technology-driven company, and everything I'm going to say in the next 45 minutes, I have the right to say because I'm an engineer, and as I usually say, the worst of its kind because I'm also a PhD in combustion and hard science. So the challenge of many companies, including Liquide, is to say to survive in the digital revolution, we need to adapt. We need to understand, and let's say the new rules of the games. Of course, there are technologies everywhere. We can maybe discuss that, but my deep conviction is that the winners are going to be the ones that are putting this, you call it user, human, end user first, and technology second. And I can tell you, this is a huge challenge to make it happen. And we will discuss how design user experience is the way to make it happen, and to me to be serious about digital transformation. Because digital transformation, is it me?
No, it's me. Something's wrong. I think we should shut.
It's a matter of people, as we say. It's a matter of engaging your customers differently. And digital transformation is a matter of transformation. And when you want to transform, you need to embark your employees. You need also to address the employee experience. So if you want to speak about customer, employee, you have to think differently, and technology will not make it happen. It has to be about user experience. A couple of examples. Super easy to do a portal to embark differently your customers. Super easy. Very difficult to make a portal that will create the value you expect in the time you expect. Why? Because first, you need to know why you want to build a portal. Is it for retention? Is it for growth? So to know that, you need to understand your customer. Bang, again, it's not an engineering thing. It's an observing user thing. And second, you need to design your portal to make sure you adopt, you create traction, you create desirability. And again, this is an engineer cannot do that. Second example, an Air Liquide example. We have 20 million cylinders. I'm sure all of you have seen the cylinders, whether it's industrial or healthcare. We had, for years, plenty of connector cylinder projects. We cannot create value with connector cylinder project. Engineers will fight for years about do we need LoRa communication, Sigfox, blah, 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 and we just are completely forgetting the service you want to create. So again, design user experience is a way to think service, customer benefits, customer outcome before you think technology.
Fantastic. Just curious, how many non-engineers are there in this crowd?
Yeah.
A few. All right. So, Vincent, how important it is? I'm just curious. I'm testing user experience as I go. So, how important it is to bring people from different background into design? Because somebody told me that design is a serious job to be left entirely to designers, right? So, have you done that? Have you brought people from different disciplines at GE? And of course, GE is also transforming quite a bit. If you could give an overview on that, that'll be great.
Yes, so I'm an engineer by training, so in computer science and data science. So sorry for this. And when I had the mission to start GE Digital Europe, one of the first things they told me was, okay, you'll have 15-20% of designers. And I told them, no, I want guys that do equations, that do software. I don't need the designers. So I will tell you from an agnostic point of view what's the value for it. So first, the slide you have here is really not just taken from an internal leaflet. So that was not made for this session. And when we talk about the value that you create in the digital industrial transformation, we really see three main value levels. The first one is industrial data science, finding needles of value in your stacks of data. The second one is leveraging the cloud. Basically, with the cloud, you can give the power of 100,000 computers to anybody in your company. That's huge, and no company today is optimized with the possibility of using this possibility everywhere you can. And the third one is about agility and design. So first, making applications that are quickly rolled out, and secondly, design. So design, two parts. First part is basically in the industrial the digital industrial transformation is huge. To just imagine how huge it is, if you look at this chip, it has 4,000 times the processing power of the Apollo 11 hardware and software system. You can buy it for $2. $2 is if you take your iPhone now, order it on Alibaba.com and get it in your mailbox by 1 unit, shipping included. So the question of digital transformation is that you have all these new tools, you have to rethink all your process, all your value chain with what are the possibilities with this tool. And if you ask engineers, typically they will be quite good in incremental work, but if you have to break mental barriers, then you need specialists. That's where we use design thinking experts. So basically to help people understanding what they could do with these new tools. And very often, and I could give an example, we had in a plant making tube cutting. When we started with them, they told us, okay, we think we're optimized, we're a good plant. And that was true. There was optimize with the whole toolbox. And then we worked with our design thinking expert and were able to reduce scrap from 10% to 5% on one key process, just by understanding that maybe using this tool, they could do stuff they didn't even see as a problem. Second part, and I'll stop there, is about ergonomics. So it's great to have data, it's great to have software, but if you think about aviation, for example, you have lots of plane crashes which happen because in a situation where you have good data, good software, but you have a pilot, so a very qualified operator, a bit stressed, bad weather condition, he gets too much data, and with the right data, the right software, he takes the wrong move. And for years, you have people who have been working about how you do these ergonomics, how you ensure that people connect with the application as good as well as possible. And if you think that using this, you can put digital everywhere, it means that tomorrow you won't have just 15, 20 big software applications, but hundreds, as many as applications you have in your iPhone. And for the same reason that your iPhone applications are very well designed, you will need to have very much better designed industrial application, because people won't have time to train on them, because you want people to adopt them, and if it's too complex, they don't do it, and because the frameworks that were accessible when you had only 5, 10 big software applications won't work anymore when you have hundreds or thousands of them.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. We'll come back to some of those aspects as we further dive deep into this topic. Chris, one question for you. It is one thing to actually take ownership and take an initiative like the likes of iLabs, etc. But you are actually having to do this user-centric design or human-centric design across multiple projects, right? You are handling multiple projects, multiple clients. Have you truly used this concept? That's question number one. Number two, can you give one example where, if I did not use user experience design, there is no way I would have delivered this project? Has it come to that point for you?
Sure. So I'm part of Altran ID, which is a world-class center in innovation and design. And I'm head of a team which is called experience design. And we deal with everything that has to do with UX, UI, so digital solution design, but also service design. And first, to answer the question of what is user experience, I think, like Anne and my colleagues, it's a starting point, and it's a shift in the angle. You start with the human beings, and by defining what experience, whether it's an employee, an operator, or a final user, that you want to offer, what is your value proposition, then you derive the process and the organization in order to deliver this. Same thing for digital transformation, like you said, you need the people buy-in. So if you start with the people and you co-create with them what should be the desired efficiency or experience, then you can derive which tool, which technology, which systems you need to integrate in order to deliver that service, okay? So I would say in a nutshell, user experience is changing the size of the box. It would be mostly having a bigger box, considering a holistic systems with the human in the center of that holistic system. And it's looking at everything you can do in that system in order to improve the final user experience. Okay? So an example of a project that was quite astonishing. It was quite an interesting project because the next panel is on open innovation. And it was an open innovation project, meaning that we had people from different industries, CIOs, so chief innovation officers, asking us to think about what could we offer to our senior population in Europe. We've seen in some of the slides that the population in Europe is growing older. So how can you offer better services? And because our life doesn't just come down to one industry sector, we thought we would assemble a panel of different people coming from different industries. And we engaged into a first user research, what we call user research phase, with designers, with human factors specialists, ergonomics, and also ethnographers. So really
Sorry,
like
who's that?
ethnographers.
Ethnographers.
Yeah,
Ethnographers,
so
all right.
really like social sciences experts to understand what could we offer to the seniors? And our point of view was we wanted to be different from what we call the silver economy, which is really tapping in a wallet, but more like what is it to manage the silver energy, which means when you are 60, 65, 70, 75, you have a lot to offer to the society, right? So you have a lot of wisdom, and how can we tap into this wisdom and give it back to society? And what came out of that first phase was 6 different personas. We use the word personas, which are archetypal representation of our user population, with 6 different happiness recipes. So we managed to decipher what it means to be happy in life, to be integrated into society, and we divided that into 6 different characters that have 6 different recipes. So for example, you have Mrs. or Mr. Busy. So being happy when you're older means that you're going to enter 5 or 6 or 7 different non-profit organizations, and you need to be extremely busy, okay? You need to have only 15 minutes for your grandkids because you are doing so many things. And that's one recipe of happiness, and there's 5 of others like that we managed to decipher using this social science and really like trying to tap into the deep insights of our senior population.
Got it. That's a fantastic case study. Can we go around and, Vincent, have you used social scientists or any other talent as part of your design work?
Yeah, so our designers are most, so that was the most complex job profile to define, in fact. I mean, if you're looking for web developers, well, that's quite easy. If you're doing for data scientists, so they need to have a PhD in physics, PhD in math, some examples, that's easy.
Okay.
Designers, especially designers for the industrial space, first the pool is not so big, you don't find so many, and so we had to train a lot of them, and it was much more, so of course you have some qualification, but it was much more about experience, about how they approach industrial problem, that just thinking that, okay, someone just having a master in design will be a great designer. It was much more about ability to connect with people, to connect with problem, and also to learn and build a new way to do design for industrial. And we had some example which were not good example in terms of recruitment, failures, because people were a bit rigid in the way they addressed design. You need to be very flexible. So, of course, you need to bring engineer, people like me to design, but you also need designers that are able to come to the industrial space and understand that you have some constraints and some specificities which are different from the consumer space, for example.
I would like to react to that. I think since design is quite new in this field of technology, engineering, and so on, we have the tendency to think that under this terminology of designers, you will find everything. Design is actually an approach that is based in putting into a project, into a motivation, a group of people, where you have a set of methodologies, a way to make appearing the possibility to get the greater from everybody. So it is not just another set of competencies. It's a shift in the way you think. And this is why it's so difficult to hire. And I would agree with you about the experience. The designers fresh from schools know the ropes. They know how to be a designer. But if they have not had the experience to work in a project, and specifically industrial project, that means that I've been confronted to work with engineers, to work with marketers, to work with R&D and technologists, as well as humanities. Well, they don't have that experience. They don't have that, I will say, savviness that is really important. So this is why the pool of design right now is so poor. It's first of all is never being grow as a critical part of business for digital transformation for companies.
But the non-engineers not able to work with engineers, is that because they are threatened, they are not used to it? What makes it difficult? I'm just
the thinking. The thinking is dramatically orthogonal. It's not going in the same direction. Typically, if you look at the human or you look at the technology, you're not looking at the same aim. So basically, I worked in the car industry. You know, you have seen Gilles Le Borgne, and I worked at Renault, I work at GM. I know very much what it means to actually translate a design process, whether it's analog or digital. That's something I would like to get into. And aligning on a regular process that is typically how do you put the design capability within the design process. Design, this is the tricky thing. Design meaning, you know, the full conceptual development process of an industry, whatever it is, digital or not. And design is just placing itself as a competency along all those lines. When in reality, in the user experience, what we want to do is not just take the design at that early stage of just enabling every step of the process, but actually genuinely taking the design process as the main process. Do you understand that? Okay. Currently, engineering having a process that has been sequential, concurrent, with PLM, Dassault Systèmes sell PLM. Today, the big challenge is simultaneous design. What it takes the fact that first, you need to respect that people can think and start the project differently, starting by the user, the human, the customer, whatever. Addressing that in natural language, because what it means you have to embrace people who don't speak the engineering language, they don't speak the marketing language, they don't speak the enterprise language. So who is the mediator? Who is going to be making the medium that will help people to understand each other? So the design do the first step by just providing the space where you can, you know, when you do a sketch, okay? Everybody does a sketch to make someone to understand what you're doing. Everybody does that. This is genuinely human. It's a communication. It's natural gesture of communication. This is what design does when they are just doing their thinking process. So we are really looking at something quite different.
Got it.
So now at Dassault Systèmes, what we do is we have one belief that 3D is a language. It's the language of the digital native companies. It's not a software. It's actually an ambiguous medium that allows anyone to understand what each others are doing. On the regular process, standardized process in companies, it's called digital mock-up. Big words, right? What it is a model, physical model now being digitalized. Now those models are 3D. Those 3D now are model-based, model from a scientific standpoint, could embed data, information, anything. So this is why 3D at the heart of a design process, I mean like a user experience design process, designing an experience that people will adopt. It is key to think about in which language we will do that. So what we believe and what we do within the studio, it's actually to put the 3D at the heart of the thinking when people are working together. It has two values. What we know is when you are changing the world, changing your company, changing the process, changing the value proposition, the problem is the adoption. Change management is always an issue. People just don't understand where you want to go or what you want to do. So one way to do it is to actually get them to adopt that transformation by being part of it. So
if I can...
At the early stage, it's really about doing it and leveraging 3D. And why? I want to finish the big purposes.
All right.
If you have that language that is embedded all of what everybody is doing, the value is you can make a decision with the adoption of all of what has been done early, and you also can translate that into the change management.
Got it.
Instead of having that fracture that we usually see.
If I may interrupt and give the one question actually to highlight.
I'd like to react to that.
What did, like speaking about change management, right? Convincing a company like Air Liquide to set up an iLab is, did they think like, are you crazy? Like, it's a completely radical shift to what they do. If you can speak about that and as well as change management, that'll be great.
Is it working? I guess not.
Yes. Maybe you can use this
Take
hammer.
the
Yeah.
Is it better? Yeah.
Yeah.
I will answer your question in a nutshell, but before that, I want to build up on what Anne says, because I guess in the audience, people are saying, okay, fine, I want designers, they are easy, they are difficult to staff, but then what? If you are at Dassault, you have the 3D language, but if you are not at Dassault, you are stuck. So I'd like to give a piece of advice which relates to what you say. I mean, we all work in large companies, right? And what happens usually? You have the operations that says to the strategic marketing, for those guys, that they should come to see a customer one day in their life, it will make their life better. Then the strategic marketing says, for those operations, they are thinking only by quarter, they don't have any vision. Then for once in a lifetime, those two guys agree and they say, we had an amazing project, an amazing idea. Those IT people, they are screwing it up because it's twice the price, 6 times the length in terms of budget and time. And then I'm arriving, hey guys, I'm in charge of digital transformation. I have amazing designers, user science, anthropologists. They are all going to agree, sure, guy. Please stay where you are. So I think the biggest challenge is, of course, to staff. It has been very clearly said, and to find the right mindset behind the skills. But then to organize business, IT, and digital people working together. And I think this is, then you use any company culture, at Dassault it's the 3D language, whatever it means, whatever it requires. But making sure to create this intimacy, I can tell you, this is the biggest challenge to make it happen. Because if you don't have this intimacy, you are going to transform nothing. You are going to be stuck or in a nice, cozy place, startup-like, but creating no value. So my recommendation to you guys would be to say, of course you have to staff, designers, whatever, but you have also to think how you can create this intimacy. At Air Liquide, what we do, we take a big transformative topic, typically or not very original, how to optimize our plans, how to change the customer experience, and around those transformative goal, we put a small team of, core team of a couple of IT guys, a few designers, data scientists, operations together, and they are in charge of designing, building a solution, starting with the why and so on. So I think this, in terms of organization, if you want to make it happen, that would be my strong recommendation. And just in a nutshell about iLab, I think it's the first hiring I did at iLab after the boss. And the new boss is in the room, so I say hello to Upshemek. But I went to HR. I said I want to hire an anthropologist and then a historian. You should try it tomorrow. Try to go to your HR and ask for anthropologist. Designer. It was fun. So I can tell you I did my little effect. To make it happen, you need the CEO commitment. If the CEO is embarked with you and give you a mandate, at least, as I said, it's like the pirate and the buccaneers. Huh? If they catch me, they cannot kill me completely because I am not a pirate. I'm a buccaneers. I have a letter of the king. So I have to. They can hurt me, hit me, but they cannot kill me. So I think the mandate of the CEO is what makes you survive. What give you the time to try. And I think in our companies, and I will stop there, the most precious thing you can have is time. And in our life, in our world, in our industrial world, I can tell you we are not given time.
So, but the question is, how do you buy time? That's what you were telling me. And I'm telling you, you have to give something to see. Okay,
prototype,
and so
rapid prototype.
No, but maybe I was not clear about 3D. 3D just encompasses in my mind everything that is digital representation. It goes all the way to virtualization, immersive experience, augmented reality, and so on. What I mean by that is, I'm going to make a digression, but it's very important. We mostly do things in a rational way. That means we leverage our left brain. What is quite interesting when you are leveraging those new technologies that are coming ahead, immersive technology, VR, AR, and so on, it's like when you get into the unknown, when you get into some new place, new country, you basically activate your right brain because that's what helps you to connect with the environment as a human being. And it does exactly the same thing when you are using virtual reality. So my point is, there are a lot of things within the digital. Digital is not just a subject, it's also or an object. It's also a process where you can basically take your digital transformation and taking the means that are also digital to get you into your digital digital transformation. What I mean by that is if you put someone, specifically a CEO, where you need time and budget to actually activate some very new, innovative upstream thinking, you basically place them into a representation of what you want to do. This is the way the company can go. It could be some very prosaic topic, like on Air Liquide, you know, oxygen in the cities in the future. How do you design that? How you represent that? How do you emerge your CEO into this experience, full experience, you know, like not just the interactive 2D digital on a screen, but full 3D universal experience. Then the right brain of that CEO start. And he cannot shut off. He cannot just, he's rational, no, I cannot go do it, make those decisions, cost too much, I don't understand. Then suddenly they act as a human. This is what user experience is about. Designing user experience.
I hope it'll work for me because I've never used my right brain. Vincent, actually, if you can comment on that. And also, all this sounds like you would do something and there is a lot of budget, etc. Right? We also talked about spending a lot of budget on allocating R&D budget. But when there is a bottom line pressure, how do you do all this? If you can comment on that, that'd be great.
So maybe first comment on the maturity.
Yeah.
The difficulty for design in the industrial space is you have much less maturity. So if you're in the consumer space, everybody wants his product looked like an iPhone, like Apple. So people have a design, they know what design is, they want it. In the industrial space, it's more the opposite. It's easier to get to recruit ballet dancers than designer, probably. So you better ask your CEO for dancers recruitment. So that's the first difficulty, and totally agree that in this case, having some way to show what the future application would look like through design can be interesting. So in our process, we used it early in our transformation internally, and with many customers, the possibility to just show what the screen would look like, what difference it would make using designers. But then, of course, it's not enough. So very quickly, people want to see the real value, want to see the data. So in an engineer world, you win some time, but not the eternity. On the other question,
when there is a bottom line pressure, how do you do all this?
Yeah, because so you started telling, okay, there are lots of budget. I don't know who have lots of budget or too much budget here. If it's the case, please give your card to William Rose, and we'll be happy to contact you. I don't think anybody has too much budget. So yes, it's tough, and the design here is really about acceleration. Okay. I can give you an example. That's we did an interesting work for our global grid business. Basically, it was about applying data science to project management. So getting all the data in all the software system around projects, so commercial data, financial data, project data, and then using this to have early warnings for the project that would lose money. So very interesting. And in this process, we understood that one of the systems was not used at all. So it costed millions, tens of millions. It was not used. Why? Because nobody thought about how this process would give a clear value to the people using it. So they didn't use it, or they put garbage into it. And this one is about design experience, not experience for experience, but just experience that unless you want to have a cop behind each of your employee, you need to ensure that they love the experience, they love what they do. If not, they won't do it.
Got it. We have about
just a little nuggets on this. Christophe,
I think we should give
Chris a chance. Very quickly is when you confront. I really like this idea. You confront your data, a lot of data coming from any kind of sensors, captors, user experiences from ongoing. And the capacity of design of formalization. Formalization as a big formalization, like a philosophical level. You confront that and you structure your data. And you do that very fast. And you do it with interactive loops quickly, and then you provide value. If you just do design and data predictics, analytics, but getting them together, it's an avenue for success. I really believe so. So just...
Chris, you want to quickly
Yeah,
comment
yes, I have
before we
a
take
million
audience
comments from
questions?
everything that has been said, but trying to put it in order. I think the first thing about working together in multidisciplinary team, I think that's a big one of the big principles of design thinking to design a meaningful and enjoyable experience. And for that, you have maybe two types of designers. I know that Anne is where she is because she's very good at mastering the process. And because we're talking about design as a framework, and for me, design or design thinking is a process and a toolbox. You have some designers that are very good at just do, and they are doers and they master the toolbox, and you have some others that are good at mastering the process. So yes, you need a sponsor, you need to go see your boss, and they need to give you the grant to do it once at least. Then you need process owners, people that know what they do, and then you need designers to help you do. And once you have those three, I think this is the way forward, okay? And yes, designers, they are very good at showing and not telling. And what is the best way in a company now to communicate and to show how different the result is with or without a design approach? And this is huge because in our company now, it's all about convincing because, like you said, nobody has excess budget, right? So we need to make choices. So one thing we're very good at is to show the results very early, so it's cheaper. So let's just say that you switch where you invest. You invest more in the thinking to make the fact that your software is relevant. So yeah, we're asking to put money where normally people don't. But it's better than to develop a 10 million or 100 million software project and realize that nobody's using it, because you didn't take into account the user experience. So obviously it's shifting the invest, and the amount of what people invest in the design thinking or in the user experience definition is much smaller than the price of failure in the end.
Got it.
Okay? And then the last thing that I wanted to say was about prototyping. In that area, that sphere, what we do is we try to prototype again. So we use very agile, very lean, very rough prototyping even to prototype the user experience, evaluate it through tests, and make sure that this is the intent we've defined. If we are there, fine. If not, we fail early to learn from our failures. We do it again, but it's just a couple of days. It's just one sprint. So we do one sprint, learn from our mistakes, do it again. It's better the next time. And then we do that a couple times. And once we're ready, we can then start, bringing the army and building something that would hit the target.
Let's take some user questions. We'll take one question from non-engineers, one question from engineers. How about that? Non-engineers first. Any questions? Oh, there are a few.
Any questions?
Yeah, go ahead. Here's. Yeah.
All right, I'm Stéphane Lafarge. I'm with Herman Miller,
right.
a company that has been designing, hopefully, desirable office furniture for 100 years, without hiring any designers. And I heard a lot about assembling a team. So I'd like to hear you on this subject.
Is your question to a specific?
Maybe to Anne, do you actually think you have to internalize design? Because we've been doing it completely outsourced for 100 years.
I know very much Herman Miller, Fabian Munch, they used to work there, was a good friend. There are many, many different forms to engage with design, okay? The early stage was agencies, where people were having their core experience and then gather some new discipline. That's really where it started. With a French guy, Raymond Louis. And what really happens, it's when the companies realize that it was harder to actually sell cars or product than designing them, they started to basically hire designers and integrate them because it was cheaper, it was enabling less redo in engineering by having design doing it, and it was securing the adoption and the seduction. But the format that Herman Miller is using by leveraging some key designers with experience, with particular personality to to create a seasonal, extreme good lineup of product. It's also used. It's used, by example, in the industry of boats, okay, where they use architects. They are not part of the design process, but what is really important, it is to consider exactly what you say, Christophe. You have seasonal designers that have a completely meta view and can transform your digital process. And these are more like consultants. That's what I'm doing. This is based on years of experience, because you need them to actually see your value proposition in the long run. Then you have specialized designers. And don't ask the special designers to do the meta level or the meta model. It's exactly like engineering or medicine or any other science, right? And in this case, you will be relying on personality. In this case, I will say they are not really designers. They will be more like creator, just to basically set a clear differentiation about, do you buy the personality of Philippe Stark or Nathalie Crasset, or do you really want someone who will be just your active consultant that knows exactly what it takes, the level of design to transform your digital company or your industrial company through digital transformation as a partner, as an actor? That's, it's not exclusive.
Any other question? Take one more question.
So we talked about power of data, artificial intelligence, machine learning. So that conversation that we're having today would have been great, since what happened yesterday, basically, Maserati went for Publicis, not for, went for Accenture, not for Publicis. We're talking about people, artists almost. They went for the data, the machine learning. And what we're talking here is about experience. Basically, we were with Jan LeCun, who shown us 2 weeks ago, machine learning and machine creating photos, completely photos about apartment and stuff like that.
Painting?
Machine created. So I was with a baker in San Francisco. He didn't believe a robot could do a cake better than him. That was the case. Okay. So I think we have to, we're talking about thinking outside the box. Well, we have a conversation here that is kind of last century. So we have to look forward, and I would like to have the opinion maybe of Vincent.
Okay, question to Vincent.
This is really provocative. Basically, this is the discussion about the chest. I think it's Pascal who was proposing this. Okay. Do you want to digitalize human? We are doing it. This is where we're going. And this is a philosophical question. But what I believe seriously is automatic design, deep learning, intelligence artificial. This is going to be something designers are going to be taking. I'm going to make it simple. Designers use the materials at hand. In the past, it was the nature, inspiration, it was earth, it was clay, it was any means, metal. Okay, today is informatic. Okay, the material, the numeric material or information as a matter is something a creative mind can seize and design. I don't think it's obsolete. It's just the future.
Vincent, can you comment on that, please?
Yes, so one other comment. So, yeah, we have lots of incredible application of artificial intelligence. And today, for example, artificial intelligence is better than dermatologists at knowing if you have cancer or not. They are not good at all. Artificial intelligence is not good at all at knowing what to do when you know you have a cancer, but they are better than human at analyzing images. Now, if you talk to Jan LeCun or to Alexandre Brun, who is an engineering leader very close to the Foundry, they're both in Paris, they will tell you that nothing exists today in a strong artificial intelligence. So anything which is real creativity does not exist. Anything which is quite mechanical stuff like painting Van Gogh-like any picture, artificial intelligence can do it. So what is at stake now is really using designer creativity where it's really valuable, and using designer's time, engineer's time, doing things that really simple artificial intelligence cannot do. And the scope for things with value added is really, really high. So I don't have any concern. And really, if you look at the scope of what artificial intelligence really can do today, if you talk to Yann Lequin, which is not working on the operations of Facebook, he's working on the research. So what will be used in operation in several years is very, very clear about the limited scope of what is doable with technology.
And I fully agree with what Vincent said. You have to remember, artificial intelligence today, it's a super small pipes. So it's amazing to solve one pipes. I mean, the artificial intelligence that can paint Picasso, you have to retrain it completely to paint Gauguin or whatever. So super small pipes. So I think this full artificial intelligence debate is more the 22nd century topic. More than that, I think beyond your question, there is a very strong philosophical and ethical question. Do you want human to be part of the story? And I'm very serious about it. On the west coast of the US, clearly they say no. They say the target is the transhumanism, but it's beyond that. They are very serious about it. They say we are going to do without the human. And their target, their ambition is really to take human out of the picture so human can be, let's say, I guess, have no job, whatever. And this is a philosophical choice. I think in Europe, we have a chance to say something different and to say, no, we want human to be part of the picture. And my deep conviction is that if Europe make that stance, then Europe will also have a chance to maybe re-attract talents, maybe people that go at Facebook to work with Yann Lequin that will come back to France or to Europe. And if we want one day to have some champions, digital champions in Europe, this is to me one of the paths to clearly state that human has to be part of the story.
Olivier,
We are
as well, just a final comment on big data. I think the way designers see big data or whatever other means is, like you said, it's a means to an end. The end is, what is the experience that I want to design? Okay, what do I want to do? And like Curtis said, he wanted to augment the operator. So if you choose that digital is to augment the operator, then you start from the operator and we work together in a factory in Airbus to see how we could augment the operator, the line balancer, the engineering, the plant manager, etc. And this is where it's very philosophical. It depends on the angle. If the angle that you take, and I think this is what we believe here, is how do we make us better as a species, then it's great. If you're trying to see how can we push it so that it replaces the human, then it's not so great.
fantastic.
I said at the very beginning, it's not about making experiences and digitalizing how to do experiences. It's to do desirable one, okay? And I don't see any machines able to do something that is like desire. Come to me if you find that.
All right, with that thought, we would have to close it. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can keep going on with this panel. I think we should wrap it up.